Back so soon? Oh no, what happened?
A little incident at the dog park. We gotta head to the vet.
Oh, not again. These bills.
We can use CashNet USA. We can apply in minutes, get a fast decision, and have the money in the account as soon as the same business day. All right, Cheddar, back in the car.
When you need money fast, be the hero. All loans subject to lender approval. Speed of funding is subject to verifications and your bank's processing times. See CashNetUSA.com for more details.
It's time to turn your daydream into your dream job. Wix gives you the power to turn your passion into a moneymaker with a website that fits your unique vision and drives you towards your goals. Let your ideas flow with AI tools that guide you, but give you full control and flexibility. Manage your business from one dashboard and keep it growing with built-in marketing features. Get everything you need to turn your part-time passion into a full-time business. Go to Wix.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, die-in times here. That's right. We're talking about National Lampoon's Class Reunion, a movie I bet you didn't even know existed, on Kill by Kill. Well, greetings and salutations, Internet. It is your old pal, Patrick Hamilton, coming to you once again from Lizzie Borden High. This is the Kill by Kill podcast, where we're dedicated to celebrating the least discussed component of any horror film, the characters. And on today's show, we're going to unpack all the goriest details of National Lampoon's Class Reunion in the hopes that a 10-year graduate, their untimely end is just the beginning of the jokes that anyone makes. God, I wish this movie had jokes in it. I think it has 3 total. And of course, there's only one person I trust who fills my whole tuxedo with joy and knows when it's time to pipe the pear. The one, the only, Gina Radcliffe. How are you doing today, Gina?
Yeah, I'm good, but you said about a movie you didn't even realize existed. No,
yes.
I'm sure there are people who listen to the show who realize it existed, and that is people precisely between the ages of 50 and 53.
It's the only blip on the radar. Now,
Right.
Our sweet spot, according to our demos, right, is the 30 to 45. That is where a majority of our audience is.
You're too young. You're not going to remember You're not going to remember this movie. Yeah.
The other, it's sandwiched by our other 2 big ones: the people who are between 45 and 60, and people 35 to 21. And we've got good segments there. Sorry, this needed to be discussed because this thing is a fucking calamity.
Yeah, we're not making this up. This is a real movie. And when I say, a very specific audience would remember it, is because for some reason, it probably is part of one of those packages that cable channels used to get in the 80s, where you get like one big movie and 10 movies that barely saw any theatrical release. Like, just kind of thrown in as a bonus package.
Yeah.
This was definitely one of those movies that for some reason was on cable a lot for a short period in the early to mid 80s, and then appears to have just disappeared from existence.
This and the other ABC motion picture thing that I kind of remember was Young Doctors in Love.
Yes, exactly. Same type of movie, and same period, same group, very specific demographic of people who will remember that movie.
And I don't remember a lot of Young Doctors in Love, but what I do remember is it is a parody of hospital movies, so it at least has a point of view. Now, I won't say that I remember it being funny, because I do not. But that's not to say that if I revisited, there wouldn't be performance or something worthwhile about it. But this movie is insanely hard to find, and usually we avoid such films. But I'm here to tell our audience, do not try to find this movie.
It is not available for streaming anywhere. Just Watch does not even acknowledge its existence, which is hilarious. It acknowledges the existence of every other National Lampoon Presents movie, which, some of which border into near softcore pornography.
Right.
Which this does not, thank God. But yeah, those, no trouble finding those. I had to resort to watching this on the Internet Archive.
And it is a great rendition of it, Gina. I dipped in to just see what you had to put up with to watch this movie. And it is a 4:3, just absolutely lit by candle version of this film.
I had to watch it on my phone.
Now, it's not to say that this hasn't been upgraded. Gina, and I don't say this to brag, and I don't mean to boast, but I like bread and butter on my breakfast toast, and I own this on Blu-ray.
Oh my!
This episode is justifying that purchase 3 years ago, whenever it was.
I was going to say, did you get it as for opening a bank account?
It was part of my good driver discount from my insurance company.
Did you win the booby prize in a raffle drawing?
This is like the white elephant of movies, but it is a perfectly clear high def version of this movie. So that exists, but no one on the internet is willing to go, don't put that on here. Amazon and used to just put up anything.
Yeah, this ain't
Tubi will put up anything.
I was going to say, this ain't even on Tubi.
This isn't even part of like a free movie collection that you'll find on YouTube. You will, however, find specific clips from it on YouTube. So it's like, it's teasing you that it exists, but you can't actually see it. And I'm here to tell you, you're not missing out on much.
No.
So the question then becomes, Patrick, Gina did not approve this. This is a me problem. Patrick, why did you decide to talk about this when you're talking about horror comedies if it's unfunny? Well, frankly, we had to have one really bad example of a horror comedy. And while there's a couple slasher parodies that I think are unsuccessful, we'd obviously talked about what I would argue is the most successful, Student Bodies, way back in the show's like second year.
Yeah, I think so.
And this movie makes that look like The Naked Gun.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I will not argue that Student Bodies is a wholly successful comedy. I will say its first 10 minutes are so fucking good. It just cannot keep up that pace. It doesn't have the script. It doesn't have the concept to do it. And it decides in the last third to solve a mystery. You're like, I didn't come here for that. I came here for weird jokes. This is a movie full of weird, and I'll put jokes in dick fingers.
Yeah, we've talked about labored comedy.
Yeah.
And I think the saddest part about Class Reunion is, number one, you've got a lot of recognizable actors in it.
Yeah, you've seen a lot of these people in other things.
A lot of them, when not acting, were comedy writers
or directors.
Or directors.
You have
they knew comedy.
Yeah.
And they're trying very hard.
This is not a problem with effort.
No
one is sitting back and relying upon the script to sell this comedy. Everyone is going balls to the wall on whatever they have been presented. And unfortunately, what is on the page is DOA, baby.
Yeah, they're all giving their best efforts to play what is basically a collection of stereotypes and also some vague references to horror movies. Like you've got a vampire as part of this high school group for some reason that nobody ever comments on.
Why? Gina, why? This is one of the wildest things about this movie is that it is presenting itself as a horror parody, and it has these random horror elements and seems completely unconcerned with making jokes out of that subject matter. Why is that one guy a vampire? Why is that one girl possessed by the devil?
She explains that. She made a deal. She made a deal with the devil so she wouldn't be crippled anymore. And apparently part of this deal means she is occasionally possessed by the devil.
Yes. But in terms of the movie, why is she possessed by the devil?
Yeah,
I get the character motivation.
Nobody really comments on this. Just the fact that there's a vampire in the class. Like everybody's like, oh, that's, I don't remember the character's name. That's like, he's the vampire.
Yeah. He's Egon.
Egon,
again,
right.
there's something in the National Lampoon DNA that thinks foreign name that's funny is Egon, because they go back to that fucking mere months from this in Ghostbusters, and it's the same group of writers that gave birth to that. Gina, I did so much research on a movie that there's no information on. This Wikipedia is a fucking stub of information. It's just the director does not have his own active Wikipedia page. That's how little this is available. And so I had to not only watch this movie once for clarity and twice to hear the director's commentary, of which, listen, this is not his fault. He's a very elderly man by the point that this is put into high def. And his responses to half the questions are, we just did it that way.
I'm pretty sure he did not want to admit that he probably doesn't actually remember much.
I mean, he did not have a truly wonderful cinematic career. Weirdly enough, we're going to cover another one of his movies this year, Gina. Oh my God. This guy had trouble in cinemas. That being said, he does go on to do a bunch of TV stuff. So it's not like he was unemployable after this, but he's definitely in movies director's jail after this. And so to find information, I had to watch that director's commentary. There's one interview with the director on comingsoon.net. And then there's one podcast episode about this for a podcast that is no longer available on your podcatcher for whatever reason. It's called Pretty in Podcast. It's only available on YouTube. I will get to the subject of that podcast. You can probably figure it out. Fuck it. I'm going to God damn it. I fucked myself up trying to make sure I credited people. Pretty in Podcast is all about John Hughes's film career. And so this is now the reveal that, yes, that John Hughes wrote this fucking movie.
Oh boy.
And I'm not one of those people that say like John Hughes is bulletproof. There's plenty of things you can point out about his career and how he wrote and what he wrote about that you can poke holes in, and we will get to some of that here. That being said, there were many times when what he wrote was thoughtful, was interesting, did push boundaries, did make comedy on screen more interesting. And this is the roughest fucking start to anyone's movie career I've ever consumed.
I don't know what this is. The best way to describe it is, what if, and I would can't say what if Animal House, because Animal House, while it, as has already been established, has not aged well, there's still some genuinely funny moments in it.
I agree.
I would put this more as a Porky's. What if Porky's was a horror movie?
That's interesting. Certainly Porky's is a kind of touchstone. Obviously that happens after this. I would say Porky's is really trying harder to be Animal House. And this is some of that, but also is caught up in the whirlwind of a post-airplane world. Yeah. There are setups and jokes in this that definitely feel like John Hughes has consumed Kentucky Fried Theater content and figures, I have been funny in many ways. Surely I too can be funny in this way. I don't know if it was on the page, but it certainly did not wind up on the screen.
No, and it's sort of like, remember, I don't remember if it was Airplane or Airplane 2, where it
well, that bodes well.
It has the shot of the Jell-O mold shaking and then the lady's boobs shaking. It was basically like, what if we did that, but we took her top off?
Yes, but there's also a lack of elements that justify the R rating here. Which is why I think it played on early cable so often. It's very highly sexual,
but not in a sexy way, in a gross way,
in a leering way.
Horny is associated with absolutely losing control of your faculties.
Right. Everyone slips into cartoon wolf whose tongue folds out of their mouth and rolls like a red carpet on the floor. And that can be fine. Like, you can do that, but you have to keep up that tone. And this movie
also you could do that with one character, but with multiple characters.
Yes.
It's like, okay, is there something they put in the punch bowl here? Is there like a gag I missed?
Yes.
You know where your business would be without you. Imagine where it could go with more of you. Well, With Wix, you can create a website with more of your vision, your voice, your expertise. Wix gives you the freedom to truly own your brand and do it on your own. With full customization and advanced AI tools that help turn your ideas into reality. Scale up without being held back by cookie-cutter solutions and grow your business into your online brand. Because without you, your business is just business as usual. Take control. Go to Wix.com.
Did you know that parents rank financial literacy as the #1 most difficult life skill to teach? Meet Greenlight, the debit card and money app for families. With Greenlight, you can set up chores, automate allowance, and keep an eye on your kids' spending with real-time notifications. Kids learn to earn, save, and spend wisely, and parents can rest easy knowing their kids are learning about money with guardrails in place. Sign up for Greenlight today at greenlight.com/podcast.
Everybody sleeps, but no two people sleep alike. At Coop Sleep Goods, we celebrate the way you sleep differently. We believe everyone deserves a great night's sleep with their own pillow. And the adjustable, customizable Coop pillow makes it easy. Whether you're a side sleeper, back sleeper, or even a starfish, we've got the perfect pillow for you. Crafted with our innovative memory foam and microfiber fill, our hypoallergenic pillows adjust to you, not the other way around. Just tailor the fill for the perfect fit. Add some in, take some out, until your pillow's just right for you. See why luxury hotels and spas worldwide feature Coop Sleep Goods and why we have tens of thousands of five-star reviews. With our 100-night risk-free trial, you've got nothing to lose, except those sleepless nights. Get 25% off your first order when you visit coopsleepgoods.com/comedy. That's COOP sleepgoods.com/comedy.
So let's rewind a little bit and then roll back into this, because I think the Animal House comparison is very apt to a certain degree of why this does not work. But in order to discuss that, we have to get to where Animal House is. The mystique of National Lampoon at the time this movie comes out was brighter than it ever was afterwards, but National Lampoon is an extension of the Harvard Lampoon. It moves off campus and becomes like a haven for up-and-coming comedy writing talent at the time who are desperate to push boundaries, and they don't really care about taste. And that's all fine and well. They quite often were forced to apologize for a bunch of shit, but hey, they were trying shit. It was the 70s,
Well, it was,
right?
yeah, it's interesting. I used to be very fascinated by National Lampoon. My father read it, so I would read it. Now, being a teenager, I didn't get a lot of the jokes.
Yeah.
There was two, you had two speeds of humor with National Lampoon. You had tits and jerking off humor, and then you had humor that was so dry that it was almost imperceptible, which is people like PJ O'Rourke, for instance, who
exactly what the fuck was that guy's voice? Because at the end of the day, it turns out his kind of counterculture was, I'm Republican. Isn't that funny? And you're like, not particularly. Honestly, when it comes down to it, why the fuck did I read this guy in Rolling Stone? I would just consume anything. I mean, pick your poison. Is it him? Is it Michael O'Donoghue? Is it Ann Bates? Tony Hendra, our beloved Spinal Tap tour manager, was also a writer there. And not only that, all those people are coming together on not only the magazine, but then you have their multimedia projects, because they're doing albums and then they're doing stage shows. And that's where a bunch of Chicago and Toronto improv people out of Second City find their first sort of glory days. You've got Chevy Chase, John Belushi, Christopher Guest, Bill Murray, Gilda Radner, Harold Ramis. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. So you have these people who do insanely big comedy level stuff in the 70s, in the 80s. And of course, it sort of crescendos to a certain degree with Animal House, especially after that becomes a success. And I don't really want to dwell too much on the comparison for too long, because they are ultimately different movies. But there are stark differences that I think explain where this goes wrong. In Animal House, it's a very simple story. It's the worst people on campus, and they gather in one fraternity, and hijinks ensue. So that's the DNA there, right? So Class Reunion, you take that and you go, all right, I'm just going to shift up some of the scenarios here. The worst people that you knew in high school get back together 10 years later for a class reunion, and then they're knocked off one by a classmate that they wronged, except the movie's kind of uninterested in that horror slasher trope until about the halfway mark. And even then, it's barely interested in it. Also introduce random horror elements like a pseudo vampire and a possessed lady. And the school looks like Frankenstein's castle for whatever fucking reason. And it's called Lizzie Borden High, but it doesn't want ever to be a horror movie at any point, which I guess is fine. But if your emphasis is to then be a comedy, my suggestion would be consider humor.
Can I tell you what the funniest part about the setting of this is?
Oh, I'd love to hear it.
I did read this little nugget of trivia somewhere, I think on the IMDb page for it, where this was filmed at a chiropractic college in Pasadena.
Yes. A former middle school that kind of has a weirdly famous lineage, but became a film set over and over and over again. But yeah, like this was a chiropractic college for a really long time. Before that, it was a middle school. And after an earthquake, it's where people lived on the football field for a really long time. It's just got a crazy history to it.
Yeah, like the one joke as far as this being a movie about a class reunion, like the very labored joke is that everybody is exactly the same. You've got Garrett Graham as like the preppy class president.
Exactly.
You know, he's the talking like this, darling. And then you've got the two bitchy popular girls. You've got the disgusting Bluto type. You've got the two potheads who are still potheads. And it's like, I mean, I guess that's funny that like in 10 years these people have not like changed or grown in any appreciable way.
I guess. And that seemed to be Hughes's like main goal here. Is he had gone to his class reunion and nobody had changed. And he's like, I'm going to write a script on that. And then I don't know where the jokes are. The head of the National Lampoon Film Division is Maddie Simmons. And he just could not fucking get out of his way post Animal House. Even the sitcom version of Animal House failed after 5 episodes.
Oh, have you ever watched any of those?
Oh, it is interminable.
Oh, boy.
But previous to this, like Simmons and Hughes had attempted to do 2 other National Lampoon projects that just die of very individual deaths. First off, you got Jaws 3 People Zero, which we talked about in our Jaws 3 episode, so go check that out. But Steven Spielberg personally tanked that. Then you have National Lampoon's The Joy of Sex, which was supposed to be Penny Marshall's directorial debut, but that version died when John Belushi did. So Joy of Sex eventually makes it to screens in 1984 under director Martha Coolidge, although she was fired during the editing process. The thing is, I've never watched Joy of Sex, and I've watched every other Martha Coolidge movie. She was much better than whatever the fuck happened to that movie. Anyways, Hughes writes this during a WGA strike. He can't work on things he's attached to, but he can work on his own shit under the radar. And he brings it to Maddie Simmons and is like, I don't think this is right for National Lampoon under our current deal with Paramount. But I'll let you just attach the National Lampoon name to your movie and that's fine, which would go on to be their modus operandi almost thereafter, with the exception of the vacation movies. This is where ABC Studios enters the picture. Gina, how much do you hate that I grew up in this fucking town fascinated by this bullshit? No.
I think this is one of the things that makes the show work, though, is you always come loaded with trivia, and it's great. I just come with opinion. You come with actual facts.
Well, this is facts blended with opinion, but ABC Motion Picture Studios is this weird pre-Disney ownership era of the network, and this is the 70s was like their absolute height on culture, because you have Jiggle TV, you've got Charlie's Angels, you've got Three's Company, you've got the $6 Million Man, you've got Happy Days, you've got Love Boat. And ABC has all that, and that is really working for them. But the other component of this that people don't talk about as much anymore, but was truly transformative, is they had 2 miniseries that were absolute fucking blockbusters. You had Rich Man, Poor Man, and Roots. These things were fucking phenomenons, and they grabbed the monoculture in ways that people had not been able to do before. And in a way, the movies were fighting back against TV because they were able to go into areas and subject matters you could not touch on TV. And their response at ABC was to tell stories in a way you couldn't in the movies at the time, which is have these stories extend beyond 2-3 hours into as many nights as it required to tell the story. And this was such a phenomenon that ABC set up this mini studio within the TV network to develop properties that could do a couple different things. With a few editorial changes, they could either work as a theatrical release or a TV movie. And because this played on cable a bunch, you can actually kind of see how Class Reunion could be converted into a TV movie that was the ABC's version of Animal House or Airplane.
Yeah, that's when I said that it's like pork.
Yeah,
I mean there are definitely like there's like a like full frontal nudity, but like in like a picture.
Yes, so, you can change that picture into something else,
right? And you could just edit out that scene, and it would make no difference to the flow of the plot.
Yeah, none of the nudity has plot. How the fuck you would get around the incest hand job, I don't particularly know. But surely nothing else on TV will ever have to touch that hot stove again. Oh, wait.
Yeah, I mean incest is hot right now, baby.
It's everyone on everyone's lips and tongues, and they're being carted off to jail. And then El Salvador.
You got that little White Lotus boy. You've got much of Ryan Murphy's oeuvre.
Yeah. So the writer here, as we mentioned, is John Hughes. A little bit more on his efforts here a little bit later. But Michael Miller, is the director, and he's kind of a genre journeyman by his own admission. Does not care for horror and slashers.
Oh, I can tell.
In the comingsoon.net interview, he's like, I was aware of Halloween and Friday the 13th. I never watched them. I don't really truck in that shit. And you're like, okay, how did you end up directing Silent fucking Rage then? Which also has a ton of tonal slides and might be a possible. It's not good, but it might be great, but specifically on the bonkers scale.
Yeah, we've been talking about covering that one for like literal years.
A couple people online have mentioned how happy they are at the very idea of us covering Silent Rage. It's happening. But before that, Miller did a couple of cheapies in the Corman School and then was brought on to direct The Eyes of Laura Mars, a John Carpenter penned giallo riff, which was picked up by Barbra Streisand's then hairstylist / producer boyfriend, John Peters, for her to star in. She neither starred in it, and neither did Miller direct it. That ended up changing entirely, and they brought on eventual The Empire Strikes Back director, Irvin Kershner, which we got to talk about that motion picture, Gina.
I think that's a pretty solid slasher movie with like the most insanely stacked cast you'll ever see in your entire life.
I think there's a lot going for it. Was something I was fascinated with growing up because it's just so soft focus and the performances are so big and broad and hefty. And Irvin Kershner he's not underselling it. Like there's a lot of style to what he's using. And between that and Looker, they're like a 1-2 punch of what high fashion horror could be. They're interesting.
Yeah, no, and very, very of the time in both great and hilarious ways.
Yes, very true. But as you were mentioning before, when it comes to Animal House, I think there's one more thing I want to say about it. And for a guy who said, I don't want to compare this to Animal House very much, I'm doing it over and over again.
It's hard not to, though, because for about a decade after the success of Animal House, like Hollywood was very much looking for its next Animal House.
Well, it seems like such a simple thing that it must be replicatable. And ideally, we've covered a lot of that. I mean, Friday the 13th is that for slasher movies. And it's not that Halloween didn't start the trend. It's just that Halloween is complicated. Halloween is simplistic and stylish at the same time. Halloween is controlled. It is directorial. There is voice there. It is stylish. It's not only a great horror movie, it is a great movie, dead stop. So it's hard to replicate, but Animal House feels easier. Friday the 13th felt easier because that's just looks like a bunch of kids, young adults, up in the fucking Jersey woods. And all you have to do is put a hatchet in a face and you got yourself like the number 5 movie of the year. Just go make those. And everyone just tried to make a Friday the 13th. They didn't try to make Halloween. That's difficult. Friday the 13th seems easy. And yet people failed at that too. Yeah. So back to Animal House. There are reprehensible characters in the Delta frat, but there's also a weird sweetness to them and how they treat one another. Outside of that, you don't get that sweetness. And make no mistake, there's a litany of sex crimes involved. Not real sex crimes, but sex crimes viewed as funny.
Yeah, this is something like you're putting it on for like a younger person. You're like, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm really sorry.
But I would argue that there are not only good jokes, but a ton of good character-based humor into it. Like, I grew up watching the TV version of it, so it wasn't as full of sex crimes. I was only introduced to the sex crime element of it when I finally saw it on VHS. So to me, there was a lot more gentle character-based humor to that film than the movie I can actually watch now as an adult. So I think the purpose of the John Hughes script version of this is that, yeah, terrible people from high school never change. They just age. And if that's your game, fine. But do not dress it up like a fucking slasher parody. Don't call the school Lizzie Borden High. Don't start the movie like it's fucking Terror Train. Because the movie fails for many reasons, but it's important to note that Animal House is always a snobs versus slobs college comedy. Vacation is always a family that fails during this cross-country trip, that everything they attempt to become closer as a family actually drives them apart to a comedic degree. I don't know what class reunion is other than bad.
Yeah, now you've got crazed murderer Walter Baylor, who is played by a character actor known as Blackie Dammit. I don't have to tell you who Blackie Dammit is the father of because they look exactly alike.
Yes, but just look at him for 10 seconds.
But if you're not good with faces, he is the father of Anthony Kiedis.
Two people with faces that I would argue you don't have to be good with to actually pair up because they have the same fucking chin. I don't know if they have the same predilection for 19-year-old girlfriends, but Blackie Dammit left this planet a little while ago. So my guess is he's dating age-appropriate people now, at the very least.
I want to say that I think he actually gives the best performance in the movie.
Again, this isn't a problem with committed performances. The movie is filled with those.
The problem is, as is often the case in movies like this, he's in an entirely different movie.
And here's the other issue that I think starts to blend in with Airplane here, okay? Animal House is a spoof of decades worth of college comedies where a group of students engage in hijinks and lighthearted fun where no one gets hurt and the nice guys always win. And Riff Tracks has a bunch of these dumb ass fucking things that exist. Like, isn't it funny that men and women go to college, whatever the fuck that is? Like, that exists for them to make fun of.
Yeah, there's a whole genre of comedies. You don't see them too much anymore.
No.
Their peak is mid to late 80s, where it's just college comedy. They're in college.
They're in college.
They're off to college.
And that's funny enough. But at least there was a tradition of dreck for them to make fun of. Conversely, Airplane is they bought the rights to the original movie because so much of the plot and the dialogue comes straight from that film of 0 Hour. And so when it's making fun of airplane disaster movies, you don't have to tell the audience what kind of movie it is. You can just fill it with random fucking jokes. Unfortunately here, there is no long established history of class reunion comedies at the moment this comes out.
Hughes apparently found just the mere concept of a class reunion funny.
Yes.
And I'm like, sure.
Yeah, I guess.
I mean, if you're talking in terms of, the only reason anybody ever goes to these things is to see who got fat and bald, then I guess so. I don't know that could, you could stretch that out to an hour 25. But...
Which this movie, when it hit like 30 minutes in and I saw there was an hour left, I'm like, what the fuck is left to say here? But like the entire class reunion production is quite convinced that all you need to make this work is a bunch of Second City alums doing random shit whenever the camera is pointed in their direction. And it almost feels more like a live action Mad Magazine than it does anything connected to National Lampoon or anything of the lineage of either Airplane or Animal House. It's neither fish nor fowl nor anything in between. Right. One more item before we start talking about random shit in this random fucking movie. But I sent this to Gina and we will post this to our socials when this comes out. But there is this 8-page preview that was drawn by horror comic legend Bernie Wrightson. You might know him. He draws all of the comic book panels in Creepshow. He's the one who drew all the comic book stuff for the illustrated version of Cycle of the Werewolf. I mean, he is fucking amazing. And in Heavy Metal Magazine, they did this preview of the movie where it has this darkly sardonic tone, this backstory of Blackie Damit's character, Walter. He's about to hang himself in the hospital for the criminally insane when he slid an envelope with the class reunion invite. And then he busts out of his cell with a toilet. It's fucking incredible. If any portion of that tone were used here, we might be talking about a completely different movie. But we're not, because Bernie Wrightson is the only person on earth who found inspiration in Class Reunion.
Yeah, Bernie Wrightson appears to be the only person involved in and possibly Blackie Dammit, the only two people involved in this entire movie, any part of the making of this movie that has any interest in or knowledge of one of the genres that's parodying.
Yes. He just is the only one committing that hard to it. His killer character has a paper bag over his face, a la Leatherface. And he wanted to make sure he could still emote in it. So he would use Stickum to hold the plastic bag, the paper bag up against his face so he could actually manipulate it. And you would still see his eyes and you would still see his mouth move, even though it gave his face a rash. He kept doing it. He was that committed to this movie. At one point, the stunt coordinator who would go on to, I don't know, Gina, commit a crime that he was unconvicted of.
Kill a couple small children.
Just a couple small children, one character actor, Anyways, he set up a ratchet gig where he burst through a wall and it went so fucking south that he broke a part of his sternum. And they said, and the production was like, and this was very early on, and they filmed it out of order. And so much of the movie was left that he was going to be in that they're like, I think we have to replace you. And he showed up back to work the next day in his hospital gown. That's how committed he was to like appearing on camera. He was like, I'm going to be in a movie and I am going to show up. So there are times in this film where his grimace has to do with the fact that his chest is on fire. He's giving the most physical performance and his chest is barely held together because they could not fucking do stunts right on this movie. Oh my God. So yeah, in the words of John Hughes' script, the reunion is bombing, Gina.
Sure.
First and foremost, this movie lacks jokes. It just lacks jokes.
I think this is, as different as, as much mature it was to watch. I think this is actually a good pick for this theme because, we want to talk, as is oft repeated as we've been talking about horror comedies. It is hard to make a horror comedy that is both scary and funny.
Yes, it absolutely is.
They're usually either one or the other. This one is remarkable in that it is neither.
It just is a complete fucking flatline across the board. And I think there is something to be said of a horror spoof where it never really tries to be scary, but at least engages with the subject matter of the horror film or genre that it is parodying. And this doesn't want to do that, but it also doesn't actually want to be funny or just has no concept of how to do it. And the way the director talks about it, he thinks there should have been more. The problem with this is there wasn't enough 60s musical numbers in this movie about the class of 1972 meeting back up in 1982. And if I didn't tell you that information and you just looked at any frame of this, you would tell me, wait a second. They aren't the class of 55 meeting back up in 65? Because no one is dressed like it's fucking 1982, with the exception of like one person.
The internet does not want me to talk about this movie anymore. Yeah, you have a couple of women have the bouffant hairdos, but then you've got this other woman who shows up. She's basically kind of like Farrah Fawcett type.
Right.
And you've got these two stoners that are basically Cheech and Chong. And it's just like, I don't even know what we're doing here. But like, they're really excited because Chuck Berry is performing at this. And let me tell you, I don't think there's any song that I loathe more than My Ding-a-Ling.
Yeah.
I used to listen to the radio station I listened to back as a teenager and young adult. Every Saturday night they would play like an oldies program, and a lot of it was by request. And every fucking week someone would call up and request that song, and it became like nails on a chalkboard for me.
I can believe it. But I also think, not to harp back on this, that this comes out of what worked in Animal House. Animal House is set in that 50s, 60s transition period. And so much of the National Lampoon was making fun of the shitty 50s attitudes that they grew up with, and the 60s attitudes, the early 60s attitudes they grow up with. And they just want to tear it all down. And then it results in this, which is like 2 yuppies total. And everyone else is really out of time. I don't know why Iris has a fucking poodle skirt. I don't know why so many of these people look like they were transported via time-traveling DeLorean out of Animal House into this. It doesn't make any sense. And then you get to the point where, in terms of jokes, I think you described it as the jokes that wouldn't work today, bingo.
Yeah, well, I mean, it is a checklist. Like, I will say, in this film's defense, the outright racist jokes are to a minimum. But that's because you literally have one black character in it, and
yes,
he's one of the stoners. And my lip twitched the closest to a smile during the scene where they are investigating the missing lunch lady.
Yes.
Because they look, of course the gag is, the cafeteria is disgusting. The lunch lady is Anne Ramsey, which, I was happy to see her, but she's dead, but there's a decent sight gag where they look at like a rack and like, it's got cans that are marked like cream shit and powdered shit like that. I think I felt like a little, like 1/4 of my mouth slightly turning upwards at that.
I would say there are only like 5 times when I enjoyed this movie. One was the powdered cream pureed cans of shit. The other is the Anne Ramsey using a circular saw to cut lasagna.
Yeah,
I enjoyed that.
I do like when she attempted to use karate against Walter when he showed up.
Okay, yeah, that like Anne Ramsey, and it's all of a sudden it's becoming the Benny Hill show for whatever.
Rolls over a counter to like escape from him.
Oh, it just genius. Like if if the movie was just that, I'm
a sucker for a good disgusting lunch lady gag, like where she's got the cigarette, dropping ash
in the mashed potatoes. There was one other sight gag that I enjoyed, which was when Gary, the character no one remembers, pulls out a sweater from his high school crush's locker.
Like the impression of boobs in it.
It still has the impression of boobs. I'm like, okay. But then he dances with that sweater for 3 fucking minutes, Gina. It's just dead goddamn air. There's nothing happening.
Right. And it's like, the tone of it is like, okay, is this supposed to be like weird or funny or poignant?
I don't know. Am I supposed to feel something? Am I supposed to dislike him? Am I supposed to consider him actually the Blackie Dammit character in some kind of disguise? Or will everyone else believe that he is the killer because no one can remember him? The movie never even attempts to make that math work. No one remembers him because someone thought that was a good idea. There's so much shoulder shrugging that I'm doing right now.
Yeah, and as far as going back to jokes that wouldn't work today, bingo. Yeah, of course you've got our classmate Steve. Now he's a lady, but he still has a mustache and beard, and it's and it's just like, sure, okay.
I have a whole thing on this, Gina. Thank you for bringing this up, because this is part of a riff that happens within this movie. Like, I'm not giving this movie any credit. It takes zero talent or comedic chops to put a stereotypically cis man with a mustache in a dress and call him a mother of 3. What I found interesting about this particular swing is that no one reacts with anything other than love and appreciation for this person. Isn't that great? I love that for her, is their response. No one calls attention to it. It's just everyone claps with a hearty, good for you attitude. And the movie lets the mustache do all the work.
Right.
Now, did I find this funny? No, because then immediately afterwards, you have the same joke where the 2 stoners are congratulated for a quote-unquote experimental farm that is obviously just fucking pot. And then you have the blind and deaf character who's congratulated for winning multiple rifleman trophies. And everyone's like, good for you. Isn't that great for her? And you're like, I don't know what I expected, but I didn't expect the same dumb fucking joke 3 times in a row with no variation to it. The only variation is, oh, this one's ableist. This one's transphobic.
Right.
And I don't know what I would expect from a movie that was written in 1980 and filmed in 1981, but I did expect funny from John Hughes. What an asshole I was.
Yeah, no, this is, and of course he turned around and said later, oh, well, what I saw up there was not what I had written. And I'm like, I've read some of your writing in National Lampoon, John Hughes. It's some of your writing.
This is absolutely major portions of what he does. And the director, I don't know if he's trying to pass the buck or anything, but he's asked point blank in the director's commentary, these are all, you have a lot of improv people and sketch people. Are they developing their own character? He's like, no, everyone is playing what was written on the page. So,
now, this will be the first of 2 movies within about a 2-year period written by John Hughes that has incest jokes. And I can tell you, like I said, I read a lot of old National Lampoon, and he did a lot of incest shtick because someone having sex with their sister is like that's it's cheap gross out humor,
and he's very into cheap gross out humor, and fine. I think that's fine if you actually land that particular joke, but I don't know that he has anything beyond the provocation here. He's just poking at you to see what will happen.
Did you know an average of 33,000 domains get registered every day? If you got an idea for a business, make sure you name it right away. Just search Wix Domains and claim yours before someone else does. Your ideal.com, .net, .u is out there. Search Wix Domains and go grab yours today.
Did you know that parents rank financial literacy as the #1 most difficult life skill to teach? Meet Greenlight, the debit card and money app for families. With Greenlight, you can set up chores, automate allowance, and keep an eye on your kids' spending with real-time notifications. Kids learn to earn, save, and spend wisely, and parents can rest easy knowing their kids are learning about money with guardrails in place. Sign up for Greenlight today at greenlight.com/podcast.
Everybody sleeps, but no two people sleep alike. At Coop Sleep Goods, we celebrate the way you sleep differently. We believe everyone deserves a great night's sleep with their own pillow. And the adjustable, customizable Coop pillow makes it easy. Whether you're a side sleeper, back sleeper, or even a starfish, we've got the perfect pillow for you. Crafted with our innovative memory foam and microfiber fill, our hypoallergenic pillows adjust to you, not the other way around. Just tailor the fill for the perfect fit. Add some in, take some out, until your pillow's just right for you. See why luxury hotels and spas worldwide feature Coop Sleep Goods and why we have tens of thousands of five-star reviews. With our 100-night risk-free trial, you've got nothing to lose, except those sleepless nights. Get 25% off your first order when you visit coopsleepgoods.com/comedy. That's COOP sleepgoods.com/comedy.
And there's also let's actually dig into for about 12 seconds because it's gross to think about. But you've got this prank that is played on Walter, where much like in Terror Train, he is convinced that such and such wants to have sex with you.
Right.
Go meet her here. You won't be able to see her, but she'll be there. Like any fucking moron would fall for that. And then it's his sister who kind of seems to be into the whole thing. Which I guess is supposed to be the funny part. But then,
the funny part is that it's still Blackie
Dan, of course, wearing
wig.
makeup and a wig, of course.
Yeah.
But he also has a shrine to her, and it's like, okay, did she die at some point?
Right.
No one actually mentions what happens to her.
Right. And later on in the movie, they're like, yes, it was cruel and bad that she gave you a hand job, but also it's not like it was exclusive to you. She slept with everybody in school. And you're like, wait a second, where's the joke there? Well, make this math make sense. Line up these numbers. Oh my God. I don't know, Gina. Like Terror Train, this somehow forces Walter to dress up like a woman to get revenge. And I refuse to believe there's no fucking way that John Hughes didn't see Terror Train and want to make fun of it in this manner.
It's there, but it's like they were embarrassed about, the slasher movies are stupid.
Right. And that's fine. You can make a comedy about how slasher movies are stupid, but you also have to have jokes if you're going to make a parody. And the film is just uninterested in the process. And then, 30 minutes in, there's a revelation. A character shows up that feels like it is out of a slasher movie that has relevance to that kind of plot.
He's a Dr. Loomis, basically.
Yeah, he is the Dr. Loomis. And all of a sudden, the movie takes on an energy of being a competent comedy. Now, I didn't laugh out loud, but I'm like, okay, these are focused jokes.
Because it's another very recognizable actor.
Yeah.
Michael Lerner. He's playing everything very straight, like taking a Leslie Nielsen approach to the character, which kind of works.
Yeah, I think he is very successful here. If only he had been given more of the movie to play this character and material to actually play this way, I think you might have had something. But the film just gives up on him as a character as quickly as it possibly can so that the stoners can wander the hallway and come close to jokes. I don't quite get it. I like Garrett Graham and everything, but this movie has a lot of faith that he is funny no matter what he does.
Yeah, he's given the bulk of the real estate in this movie, which is very, because his character is not very interesting. It is a take on the, I don't remember the name of the rival frat in the preppy frat. In Animal
He's the
House.
snob of this.
Right.
He's in a 2-person snob group.
Right. And because nobody's changed since high school. Ha ha ha. Very funny. The minute he sees his old high school flame, he's like, all making eyes at her while, he's got his fiance there with him, just sort of looking on in dismay. Yeah. That is a joke that is repeated no less than about 5 times. The old high school flames suddenly, having to get in each other's pants again.
The movie almost approaches humor when he says, my dad didn't get me out of 2 tours of Vietnam to die in my old high school. And you're like, that's close to a joke.
That's almost a joke.
We could give that a rewrite.
That's almost a joke. Here's the thing that they completely, let fall in the way. You're going to parody slasher movies or horror movies in general. Why not have Walter be a split personality between him and his sister? Like that,
yes.
that seems to me to be like a very obvious direction this movie could have gone in.
He is wearing her clothes. So why can't he vacillate back and forth? I hate to refer to student bodies as this paragon of comedy, but in comparison, the thing belongs in the Louvre, the comedy Louvre in comparison to this movie. It's just wild how big the misses are in student bodies, and still it is pound for pound such a better movie than Class Reunion.
Yeah.
Walter has a paper bag on his face, which is, I don't know why the 70s thought this was the funniest fucking thing that ever happened. But between this and the unknown comedian who showed up in his own slasher parody, I might add, here the paper bag is done up like his sister, and it evokes Leatherface. But the outside of him grabbing a chainsaw at one moment, never using it, never really threatening somebody with it in the same frame, the film doesn't touch on making fun of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It just is, hey, you watch Texas Chainsaw, right? Or you're at least aware that guy's wearing a human lady face? How about it's a paper bag? You can laugh now.
It's got makeup drawn on it. Isn't that weird?
Isn't that crazy? Isn't that wild? You're like, no, please come up with a fucking joke. All these people seem capable of delivering humor with it, but I don't know that this director actually can. Like, when I found out that he had directed other National Lampoon material, I was like, you have got to be fucking kidding me. Like, this guy has zero sense of comedic timing. There's no sort of idea that any of these people are meant to be funny physically. They're not framed correctly. And even though it allows them to riff and go, the script just doesn't have the runway for them to make sense out of anything.
Yeah, and also the most shameful part about it is, even though it is supposed to be, ostensibly a parody of slasher movies, you get one death on screen.
Yes, in shadow, I might add.
And it's just, someone getting garroted.
Again, this doesn't have to be Friday the 13th necessarily, but if you're going to introduce the element and reinforce it with the whole Lizzie Borden thing and the high school looking like a gothic fucking castle out of a Hammer movie, then for the love of God, do some follow through here. But like, it has shit that is definitely swiped from Terror Train. It has the X out high school photos from graduation day. At one point, Michael Lerner rips off a mask and he is Blackie Dammit. And you're like, oh my God, it's happy birthday to me. Like, this shit is happening in real time. And it all adds up to no fucking laughs.
No, not a one.
I did really enjoy, and I'll put that in dick fingers, learning that vampires love menses.
I mean, again, not an original joke, though.
No, it's a street joke that John Hughes has heard other people tell and just drafted into this.
It's like he sort of had, remember when we were kids, the truly, well, you probably didn't have it in your house, but the truly tasteless joke books.
I'm afraid that was not allowed in my house.
Yeah, that was a pretty appalling from the current perspectives collection of sex humor, race humor, what do you call man, no arms, no legs, laying in front of a door, mat stuff, that kind of humor. This feels like John Hughes kind of had a copy of that in front of him and was trying to find a way to incorporate incorporate those jokes into the script. I will say, in terms of the vampire, I did find the non sequitur where they're just playing bingo to pass time while they're waiting to find this killer. I thought that was, again, vaguely amusing.
There's one joke that I actually laughed out loud at, and Garrett Graham does nail it. They're coming down the stairs, and Blackie Dammit has a knife to one of the girls' throats. And someone goes, "We should do something." And he goes, "Follow me," and shoves Bunny in front of him. And I guffawed. Like, that is funny. Like, someone set up that joke, and that is funny. But that happens in minute 91. No, I'm sorry, 81 of an 85-minute movie.
That's right near the end of the movie.
Anything we haven't covered? Because honestly, we just had to cover one fucking disaster.
I mean, we could cover Stephen First's character, but that's so disgusting and laborious and unpleasant.
He's a Bluto. All he is a Bluto, but he's not even like in a leisure suit. He just seems like a country club slob. I don't know what the take is.
Yeah, I think the joke is he's always about 5 minutes away from committing rape.
Yes. And I guess that's funny. I don't
it has
believe
to be
that.
said that kind of character was a staple of Snobs versus Slobs comedy. You know, I mean, the difference between that and Animal House is that John Belushi had like a weird sort of inherent likability to him. Like you sort of knew he wasn't actually. You kind of got the impression that he was actually sort of harmless.
He's like a whirling dervish. He's like a cartoon character.
Basically the Tasmanian devil. But like, it's like the rest are like, ha ha ha, you're a rapist.
Yes.
It's like,
yeah, I don't understand Stephen First's character. This is not the weirdest character he had post Animal House, because we've covered his other one. He's Junior, the original Dirty Peanut.
But at least he's not like even playing Junior, he wasn't just like going up to random women and like licking their bare shoulders.
He's playing an absolute character in that movie, and here he's playing a weird, off-putting stereotype. Who I don't need him to be redeemable, but if the movie's just making fun of him, I'm fine with. But the movie doesn't really have time to do that. It's like, no, he can absolutely get laid. You're like, okay, then why? Why? Dear God, why? We could play Choose Your Own Death Venture, but one person dies in shadow by knife? No,
I think it's
I don't know.
strangling.
Strangling. It's in shadow. So fuck if I know.
You got the Hare Krishna guy, which again, why were Hare Krishna so funny? Why was there always a Hare Krishna
It's just automatic, easy humor.
Yeah, I mean, because of course you've got the Hare Krishna's an airplane. You've got there was a lot of comedies where just like a random Hare Krishna would show up in it, and then I think
the take here is that he's like the Hare Krishna business manager because he's got to make phone calls. He doesn't seem like he's big on the religion. He just happens to be a Hare Krishna. And you're like, okay, that's a take. Give him jokes. And the movie's like, too bad. We're moving on.
And you've got this gross horny couple that like you have no idea what happens to them.
No, they're threatened. We just never see them again. It's implied they die.
And then you've got the lunch lady who something happens to her and she's shoved in another.
Fuck it. This movie doesn't deserve
our. Was the lunch lady at the prank? I thought he was only killing people that were part of the prank.
I think he's so fucking unsuccessful at killing students that she's an easier win for him. But you know what? Josh Hall sells all of our artwork. Go to Revenge Body Memphis at bandcamp.com for this theme and other remixes. Go check us out on social media. Talk back to us on Spotify. Rate and review us on iTunes or the podcatcher of your choice. Join us on Patreon for super fun Patreon bonus content that you should absolutely be a part of. We enjoy your presence. Thank you so much for listening. Gina, where can people find you on these here internets?
I write about movies and television and pop culture at my Substack, GinaWatchesThings.substack.com. And I am on Blue Sky and Instagram under Gina Does Things.
Do it today, people. Check it out. Don't worry, folks. The next body count will be much funnier for myself and for Gina. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
So you've got a business, but what about a brand? The difference? More of you. Wix gives you the freedom to create your website, own your brand, and do it on your own, exactly how you envisioned it. Experience limitless customization. Boost your creativity and efficiency with AI tools for every part of your business journey. Scale up with built-in SEO, e-com, and scheduling features. Put more of you in your business. Go to Wix.com and do it all yourself.